What if Istanbul's golden domes murmured truths too dangerous for scholars to speak aloud? Beneath the shimmering glory of the Ottoman Empire, its towering minarets, fragrant gardens, and rich silks, lay a hidden world, seldom mentioned, quietly forgotten, and nearly erased. Lost to the pages of history, it was a realm of splendor and sorrow, where young boys, many scarcely past childhood, were lifted from obscurity and reshaped into icons of grace, allure, and noble craving. These boys weren't warriors guarding empires, nor servants attending to imperial desires. They were known as Yamaks, male concubines whose destinies were crafted by a delicate balance of reverence and restraint within the imperial court. Groomed to enchant, to perform, to embody elegance, and discreetly fulfill unspoken cravings, their presence was both celebrated and hidden, essential yet veiled in silence. It was complex. They walked among the empire's elite, wrapped in privilege, beauty, and learning. Yet freedom eluded them. Behind each graceful smile lay quiet strain. Every silk garment, a delicate prison. This isn't a forgotten embellishment buried in archives. It's a haunting truth history politely chose to ignore. History often forgets the most human stories. Tales of affection tangled with power, of beauty traded like coin, and of souls suspended between privilege and control. It's a reminder that behind the brightest jewels of the past were lives lived quietly, delicately, and often at great personal cost. Molded by powers beyond their choosing, they still learned to survive, to find meaning, and at times, even love. When we hear the word harem, we may picture veiled women in marble sanctuaries, but that's only part of the tale. From Persia to ancient Greece, another lesser-known chapter unfolded. In imperial China, ancient Greece, and yes, even in the Grand Ottoman Empire, men and boys were also objects of desire, valued not just for company, but for their beauty, charm, and private offerings. Deep within Topkapi Palace thrived a secret world, a golden prison adorned with silks, secrets, and silent longing. Chosen from every corner of the empire, some were poor boys chasing fortune, others spoils of conquest. But once within palace walls, childhood ended. They became symbols of prestige, living treasures. Schooled in music, poetry, and politics, they were crafted into artful beings meant to serve, impress, and quietly endure. They learned calligraphy and the silent art of seduction, trained to enchant, delight, and obey. According to Venetian diplomat Benedetto Ramberti, as many as 500 boys, aged 8 to 20, lived within the palace. They weren't cloaked in disgrace, far from it. They were admired, praised, and showcased like living masterpieces. Their presence proclaimed refined taste and masculine elegance, but admiration didn't mean protection. Behind each velvet drape lurked watchful eyes. Beneath every tender gesture lay domination. These boys weren't just companions, they were possessions. And yet, despite the gilded restraint, many found ways to carve meaning from lives crafted for others. Many were worshipped like deities, until age dulled their charm, beauty faded, or forbidden love found them. Enter Tahir and Tib, two young Ottoman boys seized by Christian nobles amid brutal conflict. You might expect shackles, cruelty, and despair. But what followed was something far stranger, more tender, and entirely unexpected. Captives became lovers. What started in domination softened into devotion. They were adorned with gifts, embraced not as trophies of war, but as confidants, maybe even equals. For a brief, shining moment, love defied faith, dissolved the line between the conqueror and the conquered, and rewrote the language of power. But the world wasn't ready for their truth. Neither Christian nor Muslim tradition could accept it. Their love was condemned as sin, met with shame, imprisonment, and forced separation. It could have ended there, but it didn't. The Christian nobles, unwilling to surrender what they found, chose defiance. They fled together. They endured prison, even embraced Islam, hoping it might lead them back to each other. But no sacrifice could stop the chill of a world closing in. The Ottomans didn't view sexuality through today's lens. No strict lines of gay or straight. Instead, identities were shaped by roles, power, and silence. Desire was defined by dominance, active versus passive. A man could love another man so long as he remained the initiator, the masculine force. In this realm, beauty was power, and the male form revered. Sultans, viziers, even elite janissaries kept male companions. Some Yamaks rose beyond servitude, favored, envied, untouchable. Some were granted tax relief, others handed political titles. Many rose from rags to the perfume of privilege. To onlookers, it may have seemed like paradise. But what is a gilded life worth when love is both a duty and a crime? When your heart is owned, yet never truly free? It began to fracture in the 18th and 19th centuries as the Ottomans welcomed Western diplomats. Alongside railroads, science, and steel came something more corrosive: Western morality. A foreign gaze now policed love, gender, and desire. Then came 1858, and with it, a law that would change everything forever. The Ottoman Penal Code arrived, and with it, a harsh shift. Affections once celebrated in palaces were now crimes. Acts labeled as indecent faced prison or fines. In Istanbul, men suspected of same-sex love were pursued, beaten, their heads shaved in humiliation. Some vanished entirely, swallowed by fear, silence, and erasure. Some were sexually brutalized. Public tenderness between men became scandalous. An age of nuanced acceptance crumbled beneath the pressure of imported guilt. The male beloved, once a celebrated figure in Ottoman culture, was erased, forced into hiding, as the empire bowed to Western ideals and codified a new, unforgiving moral order. The once revered love between men, embodied by the Yamaks, slipped into silence. The verses ceased, the portraits vanished. Stories once whispered in palaces and sung in soft melodies were buried beneath shame and forgetting. The male beloved, once a muse of art and desire, was erased, his memory folded into denial. Once honored in the empire's cultural heart, the male beloved was cast into obscurity, not only erased from sight, but severed from memory. Ottoman writer Ahmed Cevdet Pasha lamented the change, noting with quiet sorrow, "Female lovers have increased, while boy beloveds have vanished," a reflection of shifting norms and suppressed desires. Vanished, as if the people of Lot had been swallowed by the earth itself. And so, an entire era dissolved into silence. But history always leaves traces. Not all let time dictate the final word. Tahir and Tib, whose love was born in bondage and bloomed against fate, refused to fade quietly. They refused to be buried in silence. When their Christian lovers were jailed for loving them, the two Ottoman boys waited. And when freedom came, they did the unthinkable. They embraced Islam, not for redemption, not for gain, but for love. A defiant, sacred act in a world that forbade it. It was a desperate, hopeful act, an attempt to outrun a world tightening its grip. Their choice wasn't just reunion, it was resistance, a quiet revolt against politics, dogma, and expectation. They knew the danger. Still they dared, because even as empires rose and morality shifted, love, to them, remained worth everything. Empires crumbled, laws stiffened, hearts turned cold. Yet love, fierce and unwavering, endured. The tale of the Ottoman male concubine isn't just one of indulgence or decline. It's a mirror reflecting how cultures shape love, sometimes as freedom, sometimes as chains, and how those meanings can both elevate and imprison the soul. They weren't just victims. They were survivors of a world that praised and punished them. Their presence lingers in abandoned halls, in unsung verses, in the shadows of domes and spires. We remember them not as relics of decadence, but as people, trapped between beauty and brutality, caught in the fire of history's judgment. So, was this secret world a mark of refinement, or a sorrow cloaked in silk? Tell us in the comments. And if you crave more forbidden truths from history's shadowed corners, like, subscribe, and dig deeper with us. Because the past never dies. It simply waits, buried, for someone to remember.